Hi everyone, this is Big Face from Big Face Robotics. Back again. This is part 3 of the RC robot build. I've moved on to starting work on the chassis or base plate of the robot. I've got some 2mm, I think it is, 2mm sheet aluminium, and I've cut this shape out with a jigsaw and just starting to figure out how to piece all the bits together. So batteries are going to go on here somewhere. There's going to be a drive motor assembly for each side and a caster wheel in the back, and that's what this shape is cut out for. This is obviously going to have to be set up some way just to make up for the clearance of the wheels. So this is going to need to be mounted up in the air a little bit like this, and that cutout allows the caster to pivot with a bit of clearance. One of the jobs after that is to get everything mounted onto here. I need a way of retaining the batteries, probably some 3D printed attachments with a bit of Velcro or something over the top will do the job. Mount the motor gearboxes, and then a little platform above for the electronics to mount onto. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. First job is going to be a way to mount this back caster wheel. So that's the next job. Okay, so I've been quite busy. I've managed to get the drive assemblies mounted onto this base plate and a setup for the caster. It's not the most beautiful looking thing in the world, but it's certainly functional. I've cut some box section aluminium down and 3D printed some end caps just to make it look a bit nicer, and cut another bit of aluminium sheet across the top here for the caster to mount onto, and that gets the height pretty close, to be honest. I've also 3D printed the battery mount pieces, which is going to have some Velcro stitched through there, and the two sides will wrap around the battery and hold it into place. I have actually wired up the electronics to this and put it on the floor and give it a little test run, and it does move, which is good. I'm going to tidy it up a little bit, mount the electronics a bit more securely before I show you that working, but it's looking promising at the moment. There's obviously a bit of work to do on the software as well, so once I've got that all together, I'll come back again and show you where I've got up to. So I've been looking at this design for the caster, and the more I look at it, the worse it's looking. So I've decided to 3D print a piece. I'll show this on the screen now, which is going to bolt to the rear of the robot and support the caster, and hopefully will look a bit better. What I might have to do then is redesign the base plate. I'm going to bring the wheels a bit further forward, make sure there's plenty of room for the batteries, and I'd like to put a bit of a nicer shape on this base plate so it doesn't just look like a square shaped robot. That's not very exciting. And then I'll need to make another top layer to go on top. So I'm going to print this piece out. It's going to take a couple of hours, and then we'll see how it looks. I've also been tormented with how to get enough ground clearance on the robot. It's not got a great deal, which for indoor use will be fine, but I also want this to be able to drive outside. We're limited. I've printed so many different sizes of spacer for under the gearbox, and without cutting a groove into the base plate, I can't really get much more clearance on the wheels, or ground clearance on the robot. So this is about as much as I can get, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here's the robot. Progress has been made. I've redesigned the base plate slightly, and you can see the caster support piece. Came up quite nicely. Got the logo on there. Still a bit rough because of all the support material that was needed. This was printed on, laying on its side, so that the build lines run from front to back, because that's where the strength is needed. And yeah, it's come out quite well. Looks good. I've got the battery mount on there with some 3D printed pieces with some Velcro just to hold the batteries down, and some 3D printed standoffs there. And I've got a piece of black plastic material to go on the top, and that's what the electronics are going to mount on, but for now they're just sort of balanced on there, just so that I can give this its first test run. So I'm going to put it on the floor, make sure it moves. They have given it a quick test, but not since the rebuild, so let's see if it moves. Okay, so the robot's on, ready to run. I've got the controller with the joystick. I'm holding it all in my hands at the moment, just for this test. Everything should be connected, so let's see what happens. Haha. Okay, so it moves. That's a good sign. I've got a bit more work to do. I've obviously got to make something more permanent to replace this circuit here and mount everything to the top plate. I've got to write a bit of code, because at the moment it's just driving these wheels forward, both of them, and that's it. No reverse or turning or anything at the moment. I've got to make something a bit more permanent for the controller as well. Hook the other joystick up, get that working, controlling the wheels independently, and then I can take it for a proper spin. Something else that I think is going to be required as well, I'm not sure at the moment, but some encoders. I've got a plan. I've got a DIY encoder, an interrupter that I've used on a previous project, and I'm going to do something with that, so that'll be another video. So it moves, that's really good. The next video should be finishing up the build on this, and a proper test run. So thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you like these videos. I like the feedback, and I'll see you next time.